All right, let's do this. I guess today is my third vlog. We're starting a new painting. I probably wasn't finished with the last one, but I kind of been wanting to get started with this one. As you can see, I've got a big 16 by 20 inch canvas up here that I've been promising, and promising myself, I should say. I've got a new subject that I want to paint. I have the hardest time finding things to paint. I'm sure you guys all do too. Here, let me show you what I'm going to attempt to paint. So this will be big. This is going to be a big portrait. I can't remember. I found her on one of those free reference image websites, or it might have been Etsy. But I like it that she's looking head on, and I like all the brown in her hair. I like the whiteness of the background, and well, she's just beautiful. I don't know any other way to say it. And I just bought a painting from Matt Talbert that's kind of got that same look. This one is actually kind of kind of a side. Her body's kind of 3/4, and then her face is straight towards us. I think the painting I bought, everything is straight ahead. There's no hands or anything other than just kind of her head and a little bit of her neck. So that might be a little weird to paint, but but we're gonna give it a try. I like it. I love the portrait I got from Matt. 16 by 20 is huge, and from pretty much everywhere on my second floor, I could see that painting looking at me. And sometimes it's a little creepy, but man, it's just incredible. I'll post a link or an image. If you're friends with me, I'm sure you've seen the painting, and I don't think I posted on Instagram, but we have a Discord chat for our painting group, and I plastered the painting all over that. So I usually paint portraits in 9 by 12, 12 by 16. The sketchbook that I use is about 9 by 12, maybe a little bit smaller. So 12 by 16 is pretty intimidating for me. I've got some big brushes. I showed you guys the other day that I got some big brushes from eBay. I got this one from Trikel. These are big. I don't know if you could see, but this one is, gosh, it's like 1.5 inches. It says that it's 40 millimeter. This one is 30 millimeter, I believe. Yeah, 30 millimeter, and I believe that's just a little over 1 inch. So these are really big brushes. But if you look at them compared to my canvas, they're not that big at all. But I plan on using these two brushes as much as possible. And then I warned you guys on the last video that Matt Talbert uses a lot of scrapers. I got a couple brand new scrapers. He really puts paint on thick. He scrapes it off. He scrapes all kinds of lines into it. I'm a little worried. These are a little sharp. I'm worried about cutting into my panel, but we'll be careful. Somewhere around here I got a plastic one. And then for this whole first part of the painting, I mean, I'm gonna try to concentrate on the hair and the sketch, kind of place the eyes. We'll probably get a little bit in the nose. It's Friday night here. I was supposed to paint from a live model tonight, but the model canceled. So I'm gonna paint with you guys. Maybe sometime tonight when we get painting, I'll tell you about our painting group and how we use models 1 to 2 times a week for painting from life. But why don't we get started? The first thing I noticed is I'm going to need a lot of paint, a lot more paint than I have out here. So let's squeeze out. We're going to be using a lot of burnt umber. Actually, we're not going to use burnt umber. We're going to use raw umber, and then this is my transparent red oxide. I've already got quite a bit out, but we're going to need some more. Sorry about sticking my head in the way, but let me grab some more raw umber. I think this whole first section is going to be raw umber. I didn't stain a ground into the canvas. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. The sun is going down now. What did I say? It's 6 o'clock, 5:55. So the light, usually I put a ground on when I feel like my canvas is too bright, or if I want to pull a portrait out of the canvas by subtracting paint as well as adding paint. Sometimes I just add paint, and tonight's gonna be one of those nights. Just check my camera setup again real quick. I haven't really found a good spot to put my phone while I'm doing this. And I'm worried that we're going to quit recording and I'm not going to notice it. Let's open our Gamsol. We've got a lot of Gamsol. I think I'm okay on medium. I think we're ready to go. All right, so let's get a few of these out of the way. Let's take a sip of drink. I don't know what time or what day you're watching this, but I hope it's Happy Friday where you're at. Let's get started. So I'm gonna get some medium down here. This is gonna be really thin for starters. So let's get some medium down, and we're gonna go right into that lumber. And just to get it out of the way, let's get some on there. Whew, here we go. And then I'm going to do what I learned in my David Gray workshop, is I'm going to pick what I think the highest point of her hairline is. He actually does the top of the head, so we can't see the top of this head. So I'm going to do where the top of the hairline is, or where the hairline connects to the scalp. Sorry, where the hairline connects to the forehead. And then I'm going to do where her chin is, just to mark that out. And it's almost, in my reference image, it's almost right dead in the center. So let's just cut that out. And what David Gray said is, these points never change. We're never going to move this line again, and we're never going to move that line again. So let's see how I do with that little rule. Let's get some of this background in. So we are going to do a little bit of subtractive in that I'm going to kind of make a place for her face to sit. This brush is actually a lot flimsier than I thought it would be, but that's fine. We'll get used to it. This is exactly what this is exactly the same brush that Xiaoming Wu uses. If it's good enough for him, it's good enough for me. If it isn't out, it'll be. I hope you could see everything okay. When I first started the camera up, my face was a little dark, but I think it'll adjust as the sun goes down. Sorry, I'm sure I got a messy kitchen behind me. We're just going to I want to get kind of this whole area covered. Just so that we don't have to think about it anymore. And as I'm doing this, I know that I'm going to be fussing with this and painting into it and scraping it off and adjusting it and fussing with it for probably days. So let's just get some paint down. And if you remember from the reference image, let me show it again. It's all hair. It's more than 2/3 hair. So, so let's get that covered. Yep, looks good. Get some more medium in there. I'm gonna do this really thin. tell you what, this brush can flat cover some ground. It's got to be bigger than 1.5 inches. I'm not going to do that little curl in the face yet. I think the hair is actually going to come kind of into the face here as well, but I don't want to cover that eye up too much yet. We got to make the eye and then we'll cover it. That's what I'm thinking. And we're probably going to cut into this big old hair with whatever the background ends up going to be. You know that this comes down here, and I get to see just a little bit of neck there. There's a little bit of shoulder here. The eyes are, you know, if this is going to be the top of her forehead, this is going to be your chin. Let's just measure real quick. Sorry, I've got my iPad just to the right of the canvas here. So kind of the center of her eyes go to the center of her mouth, and then about half of that distance is where her chin is. So that's 2.5 times, I guess. So we'll go, let's try this. We'll measure from that. 1, 2, and then about half of that is that much. That's not enough. I think it's going to be like this. Measure again. So 1, 2, about half of that is this. So that would put it here. Would be the center of her mouth. So center of her eyes, center of her mouth, bottom of her chin. Her face is a little to the right. So I'm going to make that line. Might not be quite that much. Make that line. Let's get her eyebrows up here. Just for starters. Get that eyebrow there. I'm just going to cover this whole thing for now. Her eye is going to come down a little bit and then back up. This eye is going to do the same. It's going to come down and around. Remember, that's her center of her mouth. Let's get that. It's up in here somewhere. Okay. What have I done, right? So her eye is going to be like that. Way too soon to be thinking about eyes, but I can't help it. It's going to be over here. And I'm sitting kind of crooked, so I got to be sure to make sure that my lines aren't crooked. Her eyes are actually a little crooked. Her mouth too. There's like a little flourish here. Comes around. Like I said, we're going to cover this so many times. Let's get this covered. I'm excited, it's going to be beautiful. I'm going to put a little bit in there just to help me see where stuff is at. The problem with this being so big and me sitting is I can't stand back and look at it. I've got so many tissues and napkins and paper towels that I've been saving for this painting. I want to get the whole outside covered before I get too crazy. You know, since she's kind of so orangey, I think I want the background to be kind of bluish. I've got that Xiaoming light blue. Let's get some of that on there. And I want this to be messy. I'll show you I'll show you that Matt Talbert. And it's messy. We're going to scrape stuff off. I've watched a ton of his videos. We're going to scrape stuff off. We're going to put stuff on. We're going to use our palette knives. I can tell right now I'm going to have to squeeze more of this light blue out. Let's do that right now. This painting is going to have $100 worth of paint in it. I'm trying my best. I've got these little blocks on here to get my painting up off of my off of my easel a little bit. And it's about my eyes when I sit up straight are about the same height as the subject's eyes, which I think is perfect. Get some DM salt on there. My house cleaning service is going to be here tomorrow. And they're going to look at this painting and they're going to be like, what in the hell happened to Ken? Adding some white in here. Like I said, we're experimenting a little bit. I want to play with all my toys. Let's see what happens if I scrape a little bit. Kind of too uniform. The lines are too uniform. What happens if I palette knife? This is all about having fun. Also kind of. This hair goes all the way around. here. Whatever we screw up, we just paint over the top of it. You do have to still paint though. I mean, having fun is one thing, but you still got to make this. Still, at the end of the day, it still has to look like like the reference photo. So let's stop a little bit. Let's see, how much in the way am I? So lately when I've been doing portraits, I've been making the forehead a little orangey, yellowy orangey. Then kind of the center of the face, a little redder. Obviously the cheekbones are redder. And then a little cooler on the bottom. You can't go too cool with women though, because then it looks like they have a beard, but usually a little cooler on the bottom. And then the shadows are kind of cool too, so like under her neck, that would be cool. All my friends right now that I paint with would probably be yelling at me, saying that I started with color too early. I'm sorry, I can't help it. V in here. She's a little darker. What I tend to do to screw things up is I will cut into the eye from the bottom, and I'll keep cutting into the eye. So the thing with eyes, I don't know if it's a rule or the technique is you're supposed to cut away everything that isn't the eye, and what's left is the eye. The problem is you kind of got to work around it. You got to work a little bit on the top, work a little bit on the bottom. I think what I've been doing in the past, and I think what I see a lot of new people do, is they will start on the bottom and keep cutting up and up and up. And what that does is it moves the eye higher on the head. And so I got to be mindful of not moving my eye up. I got to keep that center line, even though I'm making the eyes smaller and smaller. I need to make them smaller in place as opposed to cutting them up higher and higher. And I need to measure. What's probably going to happen is I'll measure on the breaks and stuff. And in between, this painting is going to take days, so I will measure. I'll measure in between recordings. And what I'll do is the next recording, I'll speak to the things that I found that I'd done wrong. If there's enough time in between sessions where I upload, feel free to comment about what you think I'm doing wrong. So I'm pretty new to I'm by no means an expert. I started I'll tell you my story a little bit. Actually, we'll take a break and I'll tell you my story a little bit. When I get back. I do love this brush already, I can tell. It's my dog. She just went on a walk. She just got dinner because I knew that I was going to be sitting here a while. But she's bored. We're going to have a good day tomorrow. Again, I have no black on my palette, even though she's got these really dark spots. This is really dark on her. This whole section through here is really dark. I don't want these hard edges up here in case I don't get back to it for a few days. I don't want the ridges created by the hard edges. So I got to remember to knock that crap down. Okay, girl. Yeah, I gotta be careful about that mouth. I don't want that mouth to tilt too much. Yes. Oops. I want to stop. This brush is addicting. Might as well just block this whole thing again. My neighbors are watching me paint through the window. I have a neighbor that comes in and watches me paint with her kids. I enjoy having them, but boy, they really make a mess. I'm aware that this is going to be lighter, I'm sure. This will at least give me something to take a step back and take a look at and see what I got to fix. You've heard me say it, I'm sure you've heard it said, but that's what painting is about. Just keep fixing stuff until there's nothing left to fix. In order to fix something, you got to get it on the canvas. So don't be afraid to put it on the canvas. Those lips are so orange. Oopsie. shouldn't even be messing with this. We don't even know if this is where our mouth is going to stay. But I can't help myself. All right, let's take a little break. Take a step back and take a look. I'll try to cut as much of the break out as I can. I'm going to put you on mute. I usually put this up, but I think I'm going to put this up so you can see what the goal is. And then I'm going to go on mute. If I remember how. All right, I'm back. Let's just switch this out real quick. All right. Hopefully you just skip past whatever the intermission sign was. I did see a few things to fix. But let's finish this first. Let's get this chin all the way down here. I think my goal for this section is to just get the canvas covered and a good feeling about the placement of her features. And then we'll get this weekend started. I'm painting tomorrow at a winery up in Livermore, Retzlaff, I think. I think it's Retzlaff. I've never painted there before, but I talked to them on the phone earlier today, and I couldn't get a hold of them. I had this thing scheduled for quite a while now, but I couldn't get a hold of them. I usually like to confirm whether or not it's okay to show up with 10 artists. And I sent them an email and they didn't respond. And every time I'd call, my call would go to voicemail and they'd just never call me back. And so even though I've never had an issue painting anywhere before, most people like artists, turns out. Even though I've never had a problem before, I'd still like to have some kind of confirmation that it's okay. So I was getting a little worried. And but I did talk to someone finally today, and they were just like, "Oh, that sounds wonderful. We'd love to have you," and gave me some advice about where we should paint, and it should be a ton of fun. I'm going to play around with this a little bit. That mouth is obviously too high. I got to make a little, the I guess my right side of her nostril. A couple nostril holes. I'm going to cut into her hair a little bit more. Fix that a little bit. I'm going to try to hold off as long as possible on the eyes. Oops. Whole bunch of Gamsol. It's alright, I got lots of napkins and I'm not on carpet. Look at that pile of white though. Can you guys see that? That white is a disaster. What, me worry? That's fine. The only problem is, if I don't clean it up, my whole house is going to smell like Gamsol. Which I don't mind, but it's probably not so great for my dog. Yeah, that mouth is a mess. Let's cut into that hair a little bit. Work on this a little bit. Ooh, I got invited today to a buddy's bachelor party. That's more of an engagement party. He got married and has a kid, and all that happened during COVID. And of course, he would have loved more than anything to have a big bachelor party and all the fun stuff that you do to celebrate a wedding. I don't even know if they had a as I'm saying this, I'm like, I don't know if they had a wedding because, but that just means they might have had one and I wasn't invited. But anyways, a buddy reached out to me. Umong is his name. If you know me, you know. You've heard me talk about Umong. If you really know me, you know Umong. But he invited me to a bachelor party. Or not, I don't know if he called it a bachelor party or an engagement party. I gotta look now. Well, anyways, he invited me to me and my friend Jeremy to a party in October out in the Caribbean. And I'm excited and I'm afraid because it's going to be ridiculous. We're too old for debauchery these days, I'll say, but there'll be some drinking. There will be some drinking. But it'll be good to see him. I haven't seen him since before COVID, and Although I see Jeremy all the time. I haven't seen Umar for a really long time. I think it's been a couple New Year's parties ago. Definitely before COVID. He lives in Philly and I'm out here in San Jose, California, so that's no excuse to not see him, but it is what it is. The question is, should I bring my art supplies or not? I've never painted in the Caribbean before. Did you say Caribbean or Caribbean? I think Caribbean. Alright. Got that brush, this brush. Let's do a little more. So all that light blue I blopped on there, it's all almost gone. I kind of want a reverse vignette. I want it to go, as I go farther out, I want it to get lighter. Lighter and cooler. Cut in a couple spots there. This is exactly what I said I didn't want to do, but because I don't know if that line is going to stay. I don't want that raised ridge to dry. So I'm just going to take my palette knife and knock that down. And it may be perfect right where it is. But in case it's not, I don't want that ridge to be there because I'm not going to be able to paint again on this at least until tomorrow night. Like that eyebrow. That eyebrow I should whack off too. Not that I'm quitting now. The nice thing too about taking the palette knife and knocking that edge down and even knocking the paint off is when I paint back over it again, it's gonna look even better because it creates a layer. My dog is whining because she sees other dogs in the dog park. I think I mentioned it from my house. In the window that she sits in, she can see the dog park. Izzy, you're all right. I know I said I wasn't going to work on the eyes, but let's work on them a little bit. I think you all would like me to work on the eyes, so I'll do it. Just the outer shape. And then we got to fix that lip. That obviously isn't right. And this isn't right either. But I'm going to measure. I've got some tricks with my iPad that I can, with Procreate, I can take a picture of this, lay it over the top of my source image, and I can see how poorly I've aligned things. It's a dangerous crutch. You don't want to do it all the time, but I think it's okay to do between breaks. And I think it's certainly okay to do before you really commit to painting. You know, the final image, or the final layer, I should say. Doesn't matter how good your colors are, how expressive you are. If you got a crappy drawing, none of that stuff is going to matter. So make sure the drawing is right, even if you need some tools, whether it's a projector or using layers over Procreate or with Procreate. Whatever you got to do. I always say whatever keeps you painting. Whatever keeps you painting. And obviously I'm not caring too much about my colors right now. I just want to make sure that I got the important parts in the right place. I had no intention of this being alla prima, which means done in one session. So let's just get it right. I love Matt Talbert's lips. The way that he paints them, I should say. Sorry, Matt, if you ever watch one of my videos. I meant the way that you paint lips. So I'm going to study tonight from your painting and do that. Most people do the tops of lips really dark, obviously because that's where the most shadow is going to fall. But Matt does his lips really red, kind of pop art red. And man, speaking of pop, they pop. And something about being a guy and seeing that those bright red lips are just incredible. Get your heart racing. Painting these lips without even knowing if that's where they're going to stay, but can't fix it if you don't do it. I like it. I'm very excited to see how this turns out. And the reason I'm putting this in here is it's going to help me measure. There's a triangle here that I want to use to measure. So even if I scrape it off and paint it over again a couple more times, I'm just putting it there to use it as a reference spot to measure from. And it actually comes like this. But, like I said, we'll scrape that off. Make it better. Bye-bye. This all should be pretty dark. is. I'm blending. I don't want to make that too yellow, but let's make it a little yellow. And yellower. And part of the problem is I need to clean my brush a little bit. I think I got too much of that raw umber on there. There's definitely a triangle here. Too much yellow. I think what we'll do is we will scrape it off, we'll wash it off, scrape it off, scrape that off, at least a little bit. All these CAD colors are so powerful. All right. Let's try that again. You're probably like, what is your flesh tone? What color are you using for flesh tones? So right now I'm mixing transparent red oxide, titanium white, and that's got this color. And there's a little bit of cad lemon in there. That's what we just scraped off. I'm going to put a little bit of this golden ochre in there. And really it needs to be lighter. Let's see. I think that's actually not too bad. There's this triangle right here that I'm trying to make. Yeah. And I'm going to cut that a little bit here. I'm going to cut it here too. Go up into here a little bit with that same color. It goes up about that far. Bring that back a little bit. We'll use that same color for right here. It's not a highlight per se yet. I'm just trying to get the angle of that nose. Kind of the light part of the nose. Should work on that a little bit before we quit tonight. Kind of comes down here too. Kind of comes here. Get into that whole business right there. So that my left nostril of hers is kind of right in the center of her eyes. Let's put that right there. I'm gonna do it with, you don't do nostrils with black. You do it, I do it with, I guess I got a little bit of transparent red oxide and raw umber. And then let's see if I can do this side. So let's just measure real quick. It's right on the same plumb line as her inside of her eye. As if that's even right. But let's do it, knowing that we can fix it anytime. You got to make it a little darker because that's the shady side. Make sure it's the same height. So that's how bad my measuring is. This is all wrong here. You don't want it that red. Or dark. Going with this is noses are like eyes too for me. I'm no expert at noses. I think the noses are the hardest part. And noses are one of those like eyes in that you just keep cutting stuff away that isn't nose. And hopefully by the end of it you end up with a nose. There's two highlights on those, or I guess that's called a septum where I'm fussing right now. Let me just do this real quick. There's the shadow side of the septum, and that comes down to this part of the lip. And then there's two light sides, which is here. For now, we're just going to suggest those because we'll fix those up later. So there's two light sides. There's this part of the septum that's light. There's that part of the septum that's light. And then there's two dark sides. There's a center, and that always lines up with this angle of the lip. And then so this dark side lines up with that angle, and then this dark side lines up with that angle. And just so I could see where it's at, I'm going to paint a little bit around this. That's fine. And then I need to cut into the bottom of it a little bit. Let's get a little more of this. And it's kind of this line here in the nose comes down and around, and then it comes down here, and then it makes that shadowy part of the septum. And then we can adjust this later. It looks like this light part is a little higher. Now let's just do it now while we're thinking about it. Oop. Lighter back. I don't like this little peak here, so let's get rid of that. Right. Lots of tutorials about how to paint lips. My favorite lips are, I was talking about Matt Talbert. Kylon Q paints them totally different. He paints the whole top lip really, really dark. And then the bottom's really, really light. He's got paints my favorite lips. I had a tutorial with, or a workshop with David Gray recently. He's classical realism. So the thing about his lips are they are exactly perfect. He doesn't do anything expressive, or that I think is expressive, but they are spot on. Like they are. When I say perfect, I mean they're as accurate as you can get. And I love David. I love his style. I think I have 3 of his paintings now. I don't think I could ever paint classical realism the way that he does, even if I had a lifetime left to do it, to practice it. But incredible lips. He paints incredible lips. Try not to get too fussy. Just trying to knock some things down that I don't want to make ridges. I don't know why I did this orange. It should be very light. Just kind of touching some things up before we call it a night, just because I want to get kind of all the main shapes in before I do some measuring. If I wasn't streaming and I had my access to my phone or my iPad, so my phone is being used to do this recording and my iPad is being used to hold the source image. If I was just painting without any consideration of streaming or not, I would kind of be checking as I go. But this whole recording process makes it hard to do, because if I even swap away from the recording app, it'll stop the recording, and I don't want that to happen. And it's such a hassle to move my iPad in the mount that I have it in. I don't want to do that. Plus it'd be boring for you guys. I'm going to have to paint this little section up here that's being blocked by my camera mount, but we'll cross that road tomorrow. This really cuts into that lip there. Not that much. if you want to be late for everything, just start painting, because painting is one of those things where you want to be done, you promise to be done to someone, you promise to be on time, you have to be somewhere, you have a reservation, but it's like, I can't stop now. I just got to fix this one little spot on her lip. Same with me. I've been threatening to stop the stream for half hour now. I just keep finding more stuff to paint. I have to decide if I want to put, she's got a little bit of her teeth showing, as you can see, a little bit of her teeth showing. I got to decide if I want to include that. Oh, and you can tell the hair's a lot darker, but this is just the first layer. Don't beat me up too bad. We're still painting. So I have to decide if I want to add those teeth or not. The question is do they enhance or do they take away from the painting? I'm doing this line extra thick today so that I can see it when I'm comparing the two. I'm going to overdo these eyes a little bit for the same reason. When I'm comparing the two, the source image and the eye, it's a lot easier to see when it's that dark. So that's really dark there. Really dark there. Super fun to paint. I'm really enjoying this. Oh, I said I'd talk about our painting group a little bit. So about 7 years ago, so much for being on time for anything, right? So about 7 years ago, I got into painting. I'll tell you the story someday about what got me into painting. But I took over a meetup.com group, and I was only a landscape painter. And I was just looking for people to landscape with. I don't tend to do stuff by myself very, very well or very long, and I find that the best thing for me is to find a group of like-minded people, and that keeps me interested in coming back. And so anyways, I took over this meetup group. It had about 14, 15 people, and that was 7 years ago, I want to say. I think that sounds right. And so pretty much every Saturday for 7 years, even through COVID, at least a couple of us would get out and paint. Some days it would be just me, and that's kind of just the reality of having a meetup group. Is some days you're the only one that shows up, and some days it would be 50, 60 people, and which is exhilarating and fun. And that group is called South Bay Art. That's the name of my YouTube channel. We're based out of San Jose, California. And I think we've done over 500 events. I want to say 550 events. I should probably look that up. I know that's true. I know we've done over 500 events because we were talking recently about trying to think of a way to celebrate. And but about 2 years ago, I'd never done any portraiture. I'd never done any figure painting. I'd only done landscape painting, trees. We were lucky here in San Jose. We're really close to Santa Cruz and the Pacific Ocean. You know, it takes about an hour to get to all of the beaches, you know, between San Francisco and Monterey. So just beautiful beaches. Pretty consistent. Like I said, pretty much every Saturday for 5 years at the time, and then about 2 years ago, I can't even remember what got me into it, but I decided that I wanted to try painting a portrait, and I thought it was terrible, but I posted it on Facebook, and my Facebook friends were wonderful, and they all had nice things to say about it, and that kind of encouraged me to keep doing it. And I just started taking, before COVID, a life drawing class because of it, because I wanted to, that kind of inspired me to get better, you know, at portraiture and figure painting. In that class that I was taking, just never come back after COVID. The guy that was teaching it, he had a kid or two, and I don't, you know, I got his email address. I contacted him a few times, and you know, told him how much I loved his class and to let me know when he spun it back up, and he just never returned my calls. So I had this meetup group already that we were doing plein air painting for, and I was a little intimidated. I had no idea how to contact models or where to even do it, or where to even host, figure painting, but I contacted one of the artists that was coming to. We were doing portrait parties, and that's kind of where you take turns being the model. And one of the artists that would show up is Colin Q. And I just sent him a text one day, and I was like, "Hey, how the heck do you hire models for your workshops?" And he recommended Craigslist, and so I started hiring models off of Craigslist, and he referred a model or two to me as well, and we started painting in my kitchen. And it's not easy for me to pan my cameras and stuff, but my kitchen is pretty small, and we outgrew it pretty quick. And it just so happened that one of the members of our of my meetup group, South Bay Art, is the leasing manager for the Triton Museum, and she heard me or one of our artists talking about the fact that I was looking for some space to do figure and portrait painting from live models, and she just sent me a note. She said, "Hey, I happen to be the leasing manager for a museum, and if you're interested in painting here, I'll make you a deal." And sure enough, she made me a great deal. And turns out models are actually fun to work with and negotiate with and to book and to just you know, to work with in general. Of course, most of them are beautiful, so that doesn't hurt either. But it's turned out to be wonderful, and we've been doing so every Wednesday night. I host Painting from Life at the Triton Museum. I've got a lot of help. And then we also we don't do every Friday. I'd love to be able to do every Friday, but attendance is terrible because, you know, I think it's just hard. Most of the artists that show up and most of the models show up, we all have day jobs and weekly jobs, and by the end of the week, they're tired just like everyone else. And we all have good intentions to paint on Fridays, but at the end of the day, you know, we just get tired and it's hard to keep attendance up. But we're very consistent. Our Wednesday sessions are after the new year. It's slowed down for the holidays, but after the new year, we get about every Wednesday we get between 15 and 20 artists. I think we've maxed out at about 25 artists, which is a lot. I don't think I get a paint. Yeah, that's too many. I'm too big and take up too much space. When we have 20 artists, I'd just as soon sit in the back of the room and paint something from my tablet or. But anyways, but yeah, every Wednesday night we get about 10 to 20 artists, and we try to hire new and interesting models. I've definitely got some favorites that we invite back. You know who you are if you're watching this, because I invite you back. And on Saturdays we still do plein air painting. Like I said, tomorrow we're painting at a winery. I love painting at wineries. We usually hang out afterwards and have lunch. And in the case of wineries, we'll have a glass of wine or two. And I'm knocking this down just for the same reasons as I said earlier, is I don't want these, in case I have to change these lines, I don't want them to be hard lines. They should be soft anyways. I'll put them back as needed. And then, yeah, so 7 years now I've had this meetup group. So 7 years we've been doing plein air every Saturday. And then for the last 2 years we've added figure and portrait painting for life, from live models. So it's been wonderful and fulfilling. I'm still learning to be an artist. I have a feeling that this, or I don't have a feeling, I know that this is one of those things that has very simple rules, but you spend the rest of your life trying to master, and I'm enjoying, learning how to master it. If I ever do, but I've been enjoying the process, and I love the community. Most of the friends that I have today I've met through art. The things that I get excited about in the future are usually art related, and I just love it. If you're not an artist, I encourage you to give it a shot. If you're an artist and you haven't found your community yet, I encourage you to look for it, because art is fun by itself, sure, but it's certainly a lot funner with a community. All right, I think for tonight I'm gonna wrap this up, but I don't think it's terrible. I think we did a good job for a first sitting. Like I said, I'm gonna relax a little bit, enjoy my Friday, get ready to paint tomorrow, and then I'll do some measuring, see how off I am, and then we'll, my dog does that sometimes while she's licking or scratching herself. She scares herself. But just to finish that thought, I'll do some measuring. I'll decide whether or not I want to add teeth or not, and we'll pick this up. We'll call this session 1, and we'll pick this up next time. Thanks everyone for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe. Have a nice weekend too.